Listen up. If you want your motorcycle suspension to feel like it just rolled off the factory floor, stick around. Today, we're diving into how to make your bike's suspension feel brand new. A few simple DIY tricks. We'll cover straightforward tips that might surprise you with their effectiveness. Whether you're riding an old classic or a modern cruiser, these pointers will breathe fresh life into your shocks and forks. Ready to give your two-wheeled companion the comfort and control it deserves? Alright, let's roll into the details, because there's nothing like carving the open road on a finely tuned machine. 8. Inspecting and cleaning your suspension components. Before you even think about adjustments, begin with a thorough inspection. Check for oil leaks around your fork seals. If there's a thin ring of oil after a ride, your seals may be compromised. Use a soft cloth to wipe away grime, paying special attention to older bikes that might harbor stubborn dirt on the fork tubes. Clean tubes help prevent contaminants from wearing down seals and bushings prematurely. Next, examine the shock body and linkage on the rear. Monoshock setups should show no rust or corrosion on the shock shaft, while DualShock Classics should have both units free of dents or fluid leaks. Also, inspect any rubber bushings or bearings in the linkage system. Cracks or wear mean reduced performance and a bumpier ride. Give the fork tubes a gentle push to check for stiction or any unusual binding. A simple cleanup and visual check can catch problems early, saving you money in the long run. Consider this the foundational step that sets the stage for a smoother, more predictable ride. 7. Checking and setting your sag. Sag is the cornerstone of well-balanced motorcycle suspension. It refers to how much your suspension compresses under the combined weight of you and your bike. If it's off, handling can feel awkward, and your suspension won't work at its peak. For most street bikes, aim for about 25 to 30% of the total suspension travel and rider sag. You'll need a friend and a tape measure for accuracy. First, lift the bike until the wheels are off the ground to measure full extension, your baseline. Then, sit on the bike in your new normal riding gear and posture. Measure the difference from baseline to your new loaded height. Adjust preload if you're outside the recommended range. You can also measure free sag with no rider to verify spring rate correctness. Getting this right makes cornering stability and ride comfort far better. It's not flashy, but laying this groundwork sets everything else up for success and helps your suspension respond properly on every ride. 6. Preload adjustments. Preload determines how much your springs are compressed before you even roll out. Many motorcycles include preload adjusters on the forks and rear shocks. Turning them increases or decreases initial spring compression. Often, preload adjusters are measured in turns or clicks for precise fine-tuning. If you ride solo without luggage, you won't need as much preload as someone who travels two up with loaded saddlebags. Striking the right balance is key. Too much preload makes the bike feel harsh, and too little can cause excessive dive under braking or squat under acceleration. Older cruisers might have ramp-style shocks or air-assisted forks, so consult your manual. The goal is to keep the suspension in the sweet spot of its travel for handling bumps, braking, and cornering with ease. Tune your preload well, and the difference in ride quality can be remarkable, like putting fresh stocks on an old friend. 5. Damping adjustments. Damping controls how swiftly your suspension compresses, compression damping, and how quickly it returns to normal, rebound damping. If you're bouncing around after hitting a bump, you likely need more rebound damping. If the bike feels harsh over cracks in the pavement, try reducing compression damping. Modern motorcycles often have separate adjusters for each, letting you customize 1 or 2 clicks at a time. Some high-end systems have separate circuits for low-speed and high-speed damping control. Other bikes might only offer a single damping adjuster or none at all, which may require aftermarket parts or initial mods. Whatever your setup, tweak in small increments and test each change. Once you find the sweet spot, your tires track the road more faithfully and the ride feels more planted and comfortable. Getting damping right leads to a balanced feeling that boosts confidence, whether you're cruising on the highway or navigating twisty back roads. 4. Refreshing your fork oil. Over time, fork oil loses its effectiveness due to heat, contaminants, and shear forces. That degradation can leave your front end feeling vague or spongy. Changing it might be more involved, but it's still achievable if you're comfortable with moderate DIY tasks. Always replace fork oil at intervals recommended in the service manual, typically every 2 years. First, support the bike securely and remove the fork caps. Drain the old fluid. This can mean removing the forks entirely, depending on your model. Clean out any residue, then refill with fresh manufacturer-approved oil in the correct weight and volume. Too much oil can cause hydraulic lock and make the front end overly stiff. Too little oil causes inadequate damping. Reassemble everything to spec, ensuring the torque values are correct. You'll be amazed at how rejuvenated the front end feels after a proper oil swap. It's like taking your bike to a spa day. Suddenly, everyday roads feel smoother and more controlled. 3. Replacing worn seals and bushings. Even the best fork oil can't do its job if your seals are leaking or the internal bushings are shot. A leaking seal not only reduces damping performance, but can also leave your fork tube sticky with oil. Bushings act like guides inside the fork, and when they are out, you might notice extra play or less than smooth travel. For seal replacement, invest in quality parts. Cheap seals may fail prematurely. While you're at it, consider installing fresh dust seals to keep grime away. Use a dedicated seal driver or a homemade tool to seat new seals evenly, and always inspect the fork tubes for scratches or pitting that can ruin fresh seals. Look for any discoloration or scoring on bushings, and replace them if they're worn. Once done, top off with the correct fork oil level for your model. Though it's not the easiest maintenance task, the payoff is huge. Fewer leaks, better damping, and a front end that responds more predictably to every bump. 2. Rear suspension TLC. Don't let the front end hog all the attention. Your rear shock or shocks need upkeep too. Classic bikes often have spring-over damper units that can be replaced in one go, while modern or higher-end machines might sport a monoshock with preload, rebound, and compression adjustments. Check for oil leaks, rust on the shock shaft, or a weakened spring. You might opt for progressive rate springs for a smoother transition and shock compression. If your shock behaves like a pogo stick, the damping is likely gone. Consider a rebuild if your model allows it, or replace the entire unit. Also, don't neglect your swing arm bearings or linkage. Proper lubrication keeps everything moving freely and prevents annoying squeaks. If you ride a shaft-driven cruiser, confirm the final drive pivot points are in solid shape. Giving the rear suspension a thorough once-over often yields immediate improvements in stability and comfort. It's all about balance. If the rear lags behind the freshly serviced front, you'll never get that truly brand new feel. 1. Final road test and tweaks. Now for the rewarding part. Taking your renewed bike out for a test ride. Pay attention to brake dive in the front and how the rear behaves over bumps. If the front dives too much, you may need more preload or compression damping. If the rear feels loose or rebounds too quickly, add a click or two of rebound damping. Make adjustments incrementally, 1 or 2 clicks or turns at a time. Also, confirm your tire pressures are correct, as that affects overall handling. Finding the ideal balance can be an ongoing process, but once you nail it, you'll feel a remarkable difference in how the bike responds. If you carry a passenger or load extra gear, revisit preload settings to accommodate the extra weight. With these final refinements, you'll see how a few simple DIY tricks can truly make your bike's suspension feel brand new. Jokes aside, I hope you found these tips helpful, folks. There's nothing quite like riding a well-sorted motorcycle, especially for those of us who have been in love with two wheels for decades. If this walkthrough inspired you to give your suspension a little tune-up, let me know how it goes in the comments below. In the meantime, keep those engines revving with enthusiasm. And if you want more tried and true tips to keep your bike in top shape, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. Ride safe, ride often, and I'll catch you on the next one.